What's up, duelists? It's your boy. I'm back with another video. And as you guys know, the end of the RBET season is coming up very, very soon. November 18th is RBET Rulers, aka the big invitational at the end of the year. So leading up to that, I'm going to be playing the top decks, the top meta decks, stuff you expect to see in the tournament, in 8-man tournaments, in the Discord, the really big Yu-Gi-Oh Discord. Make sure you join that in the description below, etc., etc. But yes, I'm going to be playing all the meta decks to get you guys kind of pumped up, get you guys excited to see what all the top players are doing, get you excited for the peak Edison action of all year. Honestly, this is what we've kind of been working towards. All the top 8 players from every RBET and a couple other qualifying events get to play in this event. It's gonna be a pretty sick event. It is an invitational event, but yeah, it should be fun. I'm not exactly sure how many people are going to be entering because availability is always a concern, and sometimes people just aren't available on the date of the tournament. But we'll see. It should be a good time. Yeah, this is the deck I'm playing in today's video. This is actually my most recent fairy list that I put in my most recent tier list video. If you watched the most recent tier list video, you already know. Also, some of the cooler decks in the tier list video, I'm going to be uploading to members only throughout the week as well. So, yeah, today I uploaded a Diamond Dude Turbo guide and how to play the deck and a couple of show matches with that to members only. So if you want to become a member, $2.99 a month. All that helps goes toward putting together these RBET events and stuff like that. Okay. This is the deck. You know it. You love it. I've explained it a million times. Let's just hop into the replays. It's an 8-man tournament. So my first replay was actually up against Plus. So the first round was up against Plus here. So I win rock, paper, scissors like the GOAT that I am. I just deserve to win it. Let's be real. I open up with Cyber Valley and Dimensional Alchemist. And honestly, there's only 2 punishes in the format really for a turn 1 Cyber Valley. 3 if you really count Cyber Dragon in the main, but that's just not that common. It really is just if my opponent opens up Brain Control or not in his top 6 cards of his deck. And more often than not, he's not going to open up Brain Control. And even in some of those instances, he'll open up Brain Control plus a monster he might not want to banish to Cyber Valley. So I feel pretty comfortable leading on Cyber Valley just to guarantee my Dimensional Alchemist will have something to recur. And I'm going to set Legacy of Yatagarasu because why not? Just baits MST, baits Heavy Storm, baits any sort of destruction effect. And yeah, pretty safe opening, I'd say. Opponent goes for Foolish Burial, and this is a bad sign because if he's activating Foolish Burial, that means he's sending probably Dandelion. There are very few other decks that actually play Foolish Burial right now. It's either Dandelion or Wolf. And Wolf means that a Celestia is possibly in my future as well, which is not the worst for me because I do have a Chainable, but it is still kind of annoying because it blows up my Valley, and I have nothing to deal with a Resolved Celestia in my current hand. So this Foolish Burial, I'm already cringing. Not cringing, but wincing. I'm feeling the pain, you know? Dandelion hits the grave, which is pretty bad for me, and on top of that, he does have Brain Control. So this is best possible situation for him. Not only does he not have to banish a key monster, he only has to banish half of a milled Dandelion, but he gets to draw 2 new cards without even using his normal summon here, which is just very, very strong. One of the best possible 2-card combinations he could have right here. He gets to draw 2 new cards, he summons Lone Fire, and he's able to put on Titanial. So even through those 8 drawn cards, he, technically 9 if you count the milled Dandelion, he doesn't draw into the Titanial, and he's able to summon it, which is really frustrating. He doesn't grab the other Lone Fire. I considered if he got the other Lone Fire, I considered if he was going to go Lone Fire, if it was smart to chain Legacy to Lone Fire to try and draw into Herald of Orange Light. But I decided it's best to just keep holding the Legacy. Even if he sticks Titanial, I can just find a DD Warrior Lady later, and it's not a big deal. He attacks for 500. I go for Legacy to try and draw into Trag or Gores. I find Brain Control, and that's going to be pretty terrible into this Titanial plus Lone Fire. So my situation now is pretty bad. At the very least, though, my Cyber Valley is banished, so Alchemist will recur at least something if it dies. We draw into Gores next. Of course, it's the next card deep after I get hit for 2,800, which is very unfortunate, but do what you can. Heavy Storm, Normal Alchemist, Banish an Honest, run over the Lone Fire, and pass the turn. And this is where my opponent makes a very interesting play. He goes Lone Fire into Dandy, so this explains why he didn't go double Lone Fire. And then he switches the Titanial to defense. Now note something here. Note, my opponent had a Miracle Fusion set. So his deck is definitely not your standard Quick Draw Dandelion deck. It's a deck that has more bricks than usual. right? It's a deck that has like heroes and whatnot. So maybe he's thinking like, okay, I have insane late game with Miracle Fusions. He probably has another Miracle Fusion in hand. That's why he set the first one. Let's see if that was correct. I was wrong. There was actually just no reason for him to set the Miracle. But anyway, his deck probably has a really strong late game. And he's probably thinking, I don't need to proc this Alchemist and give him back an Honest, which can then run over his Titanial. So he's probably thinking like, I don't want to give him Honest. On my turn, I find Bottomless Trap Hole, which is really, really nice. Because it means even if he sacks the last token that I'm going to leave him with for something like Caius, I can banish that. And even if he attacks over my Alchemist, let's say he banishes one, attacks over the other, I can add back Honest or Cyber Valley, and I can have Brain Control to deal with the Titanial. So I'm feeling pretty comfortable about stabilizing. The only issue here is my life total is kind of low, and his deck seems very scary. That being said, Brain Control is gone. One Miracle Fusion is gone. That's a lot of burst potential out from his sails, basically. I set the Bottomless and pass. He sacks for Caius, kind of according to plan. We chain Bottomless. We do lose an Alchemist, but it's a 2 for 2. He spent his Lone Fire and Dandy, or basically spent his 1 card and his 1 card for my 1 card and 1 card. And I'll take that trade, honestly, because we're in the same position. He passes once again, doesn't want to give me the Honest. Here, I go ahead and activate Brain Control. If this resolves, I can double sack for Gores. If it doesn't resolve, then good. I've cleared the Titanial for 800 life points. 3,600 total if you count the 2,800 it dealt me earlier, which is still a lot, but it's fine. Here, I have Card Trooper plus Alchemist plus Torrential, which is just amazing. I'm going to go ahead and Card Trooper mill 3. I do mill a Christia. I probably should have Alchemist first, but there's really no telling, you know. It's just hindsight, right? And we mill our second Honest. So now the opponent knows we don't have Honest in hand. Go ahead and hit for 3,700, dropping my opponent really, really low. He drops super, super low here. And now his first summon, I can just Torrential and then drop Gores on his first attack. And I'm going to be up my life because I'll have Honest to maybe force through the last few points of damage off the Alchemist. That's the game plan here. He goes Allure of Darkness, draws 2, banishes Dark Arm Dragon, activates Quick Draw Pitching Plague. And here, because I can't really afford to let him Caius me, I have to activate Torrential on the summon of Quick Draw. Let's see, does he have Caius? He doesn't. So basically what's happening here is, if he has Caius, he'll sack it, and Caius will be Chain Link 1, and Torrential will be Chain Link 2, and my Alchemist will miss timing. I actually need this Alchemist effect to go off. So I'm going to Torrential here. I'm going to draw back a card. 3,900 is high enough to where I can survive any attack and drop Gores and stabilize with Honest Gores. So I feel comfortable doing this. I do add back the Honest, and I draw a new card into Solemn Judgment. He goes for Armageddonite, which is a pretty strong play here because it gives him access to Malicious. He can make Colossal Fighter, which is a very strong card. It allows him to play through Gores and Honest very, very handily. He hits me for 14. I drop the Gores in defense position, and I summon the token in attack position to represent Honest. He attacks over the Gores. He passes. I draw DD Warrior Lady. And here's actually a really, really difficult situation. What I'm supposed to do is summon Warrior Lady, attack the Armageddon Knight, set Solemn, and switch the token to defense. On his turn, he can run over my token. That's fine. It sucks, but it's just going to happen. We're going to lose the token, basically. Pardon me. Anyway, the alternative play is we go token plus Honest over Armageddon Knight, DD Warrior Lady into Colossal Fighter and banish, and then set the Solemn, and we have Solemn plus token to his card that he stacked with Plague and other card in hand. And he didn't set any back row last turn, so I don't think he has like 2 plays. I think he only has 1. So the best play here is actually that play. Trade the Warrior Lady with the Colossal and token run over Armageddon with Honest. That puts him down to 800. We have Solemn to stop his normal summon or his 1 play, and then the token attacks directly for game. So it's a lethal setup, basically. I don't make that play. I actually choke this game. I summon Warrior Lady. I run over the Armageddon Knight, thinking I can maybe hold this position with Honest. His Armageddon Knight dies. He takes 100. I set Solemn. I, for some reason, read that both of his cards were dead cards and that I wouldn't need to Solemn Judgment anything here, but alas, here we are with a situation that I had forgotten he had used Malicious to shuffle away the top card of his deck. So because he used Malicious to shuffle away the top card of his deck, it means he has a new top deck, which means I'm probably going to have to Solemn something, which means I should have at the very least switched the token to defense, if not just cleared both. The issue here now is that he can attack my token. Well, he can force the Solemn. The Solemn gets activated. I drop to 1250. He attacks the token. I Honest. He drops to 700. Colossal comes back and he attacks the DD Warrior Lady, and that's lethal damage because it's going to be 1400. I'm going to be at 1250. I didn't factor in for the life loss off Solemn. I should have taken the damage off the Warrior Lady crash early so that my Solemn cost less, didn't end up losing me the game. As it stands, I've put myself in the only possible losing position I could have, so I definitely punted this game. A huge mistake. And honestly, like, when you're playing Fairies, this is the type of positional mistake that's going to cost you games. This is why a lot of people don't think this deck is good, because they make stupid-ass mistakes like I did just here, and then they mess it up. So, yeah, here comes Diva. Diva's going to bring out the Gilman that he shuffled away with the Mally Plague play, and he's going to make Catastrophe. It's going to force a Solemn. And basically, I just have to hope he messes up and attacks the Warrior Lady, but he's not going to do that. He's going to attack the token. He's going to recognize the lethal, and yeah, we're going to go to game 2. So for game 2, I sided... I was like, I can't believe you opened Foolish plus Brain. That was probably his best 2 opening cards, realistically, next to Future Fusion plus Brain. But as you can see, we have some pretty good sideboard cards for this. We've got Thunder Kings, we've got Compulsory, which helps against Miracle Fusion monsters, against Synchros, which his deck is looking to do, and then we've got Royal Oppression, which stops basically his entire deck. So those 5 cards definitely coming in on the play. Can also consider pulling the rug because it stops Diva, it stops Caius, it stops Stratos if he plays it. So I was considering them. I don't even think I boarded them in. I legit don't even think I boarded them in. I just kept I went Compulses, Thunder Kings, and I believe Royal Oppression. I open up with Dust Shoot, Compulsory, or Dust Shoot, Deprison, and Alchemist. I activate Alchemist, and I hit, which is amazing. I go ahead and Dust Shoot, and we're going to see his hand. His hand's going to have Snowman Eater in it, and nothing playable. So we just win the game off this Dust Shoot. The issue with these decks is they're very all-in, as you can tell. Allure, yeah, it's tough when you get Dust Shooted. It's just tough. Takes the Snowman, he passes the turn, we draw Angel. I figured, fuck it, we ball. We know he has Heavy Storm, so we're not going to set anything further here. We are going to connect for 32, which is just insane damage. He's going to draw for turn. He's going to rip into Mystical Space Typhoon. Another brick, nothing that deals with a monster here, so he's basically forced to just Allure Blind. He misses, he's going to have to discard his whole hand, and he decides to just concede and go to game 3. So that was definitely a scary, scary Dust Shoot, but also shows how bricky some of these like very greedy decks are. Decks with Gilman, decks with Titanial and Malicious. You can have very easily bricked hands because you're trying to fit your power spells like Heavy Storm, Space Typhoon, and then you're also trying to fit like these very top-heavy cards that you can get really clunky hands in some situations, and Dust Shoot does really well with those. And on top of that, the Dust Shoot was good, particularly because we were hitting him for a shitload of damage. If we weren't hitting him for so much damage there, the Dust Shoot wouldn't have really been that good. He would have eventually got out of the situation. But because the Dust Shoot was backed up by our really strong pressure, which the Fairy deck does a great job of dealing because it just has like infinite normal summons that are really difficult to deal with when they start hitting the play in multiples. Yeah, basically, the pressure was good, so the Dust Shoot was even better than it normally is. This game, we are going second, and we open up with a really bad hand. It's just straight up 5 normal summons. So speaking of having a lot of normal summons, this hand has a lot. I had considered maybe the fact that I should have sided out Cyber Valley, but alas, here we are. I have Honest. I'm going to start off with Card Trooper, mill 3, and attack. I do mill my 1 Royal Oppression, which makes me sad because I wish I had it still in my hand. It would be so good. And he has Sangan for Diva, which is really terrifying because they don't really search Diva unless they're about to OTK you, usually. Pass the turn. Here comes Future Fusion. We just have 6 normal summons, so we're going to have to leverage these normal summons somehow as a way to get back into this game because we're playing from behind, basically. He also has Future Fusion. He has Armageddon Knight. So this is just a massive, massive play from him. He can stack, Special Plague, activate this, bring out the Dark End Dragon. Dark End sends Card Trooper, doesn't destroy it, so I don't even get to draw this card, which is very sad. We are going to take 1400, and then he fears Gores a little bit. And you'll notice that DB is bugged on the replay, and I can't see my own life points, which is crazy that it's bugged on the replay because it was also bugged in the match in the same way. That's weird. I wonder why it does that. Anyway, we draw Return, which is not a great draw, but it's not terrible. We can go Angel, attack the Armageddon Knight. We know he has Diva still in hand. This is going to bring out Alchemist. Alchemist is going to attack Dark End. I'm going to use my Honest here just because I have so many normals. I'm going to try to use this as just a kill spell. And then my game plan with this is to hit a monster with Alchemist. I'm actually pretty low chances of hitting a monster because there are 8 monsters out of my deck and 3 non-monsters out of my deck. So I'm actually more likely to hit a non-monster here, so this is maybe a greedy play. It might have been better to grab Warrior Lady. Pardon me. And then just use the Honest anyway to run over the Dark End, but yeah, it is... Like I said, it was a greedy play, but I figured I'd have to get greedy to win from this far behind. So I activate the Alchemist. I do miss. I hit Mind Control, which is kind of sad because I would have loved to draw that with Cyber Valley. So a little bit unlucky. He does have Typhoon for my return either way, so that's just going to trade. I pass the turn. He goes ahead and activates Rhoda, finds Stratos. Stratos gets Evil Guy. Stratos is going to run over the Alchemist, and we're going to take 500 and not get anything back. Thankfully for us, we do draw our first pseudo trap card of the game. Technically Honest is a hand trap, so it's a one piece of interaction, but we draw one of the best pieces of interaction in our deck, which is Torrential Tribute. So I don't really need to do anything. I just set Torrential and pass. He's forced to summon 0 here, and I'll get my nice little 2-for-1. I'm going to Torrential here. He brings out Diva. He activates Diva. Summons Gilman. He hits for 600, and he's going to continue to play around Gores. So he's not going to tag me for 17. So thus far this game, I've saved 21 and 17. I've saved 3,800 damage because my opponent hasn't played around, or has been playing around Gores, which thank goodness he had been because my hand was very weak. Here we have Grand Mole. That's just going to clear the Magical Android at +1. Very happy that Grand Mole is my deck at this point. I can set the Bottomless and pass. He's going to bring out Treeborn, sack it for Caius, and that's going to trade 1-for-1 with our Bottomless, which is like the best possible for us. He passes a turn back. We draw Herald, but we don't have any Fairies, which is really ugly. We have a couple of options. We could set Warrior Lady. We could summon Cyber Valley. We could do whatever. I figure summon Cyber Valley is the safest because he has no plants for his Mark of the Rose yet. He hasn't yet used Brain Control, and he could use it with Treeborn Frog or Mind Control, but it's just a risk I'm willing to take. I have to be able to survive the next few turns, and if I get Caius here, then at least I can answer the Caius with the Warrior Lady on my next turn, I guess. It's not great, but it's a bad situation to be in. He sets a monster and passes, which I'm really happy about. Here, I summon Grand Mole and just bounce his monster, and then pass. This is maybe too passive of a play because it does give him time to find Mind Control. So he Mind Controls my Cyber Valley, he summons Evil Guy, he activates it. He doesn't decide to attack me. He's still playing around Gores, just draws 2. So he's missed, 4,100 damage this game by playing around Gores. Sets back row, passes the turn. I have a really strong summon here in Sangan, and now that I have Honest, I actually have a Solemn Judgment functionally, or a Solemn Strike in Herald of Orange. I can summon the Sangan, force the Treeborn Frog out of play under most back row. Torrential and Mirror Force would have net him a -1 here, so Sangan is very strong here. Pass the turn, he sets a monster, we draw another Herald, which is pretty solid. I decide not to play into Torrential. I'm going to go ahead and attack his set monster. I'm fairly certain his back row is a sweeper. In order to fit all of these cards and the plant cards in one deck, you have to slim on your defense. So his defensive cards are all Solemn, Torrential, Mirror Force, and the only cards you're setting behind Treeborn Frog there are Mirror Force and Torrential. So I'm fairly certain it's a sweeper. You don't want to commit your Grand Mole here. Pass the turn back. He finds Diva. He synchros into Catastrophe. He attacks my Sangan. I take 12. I search for a third Herald because right now I'm just honestly setting up to have as many like negates as possible. I also have 4 Fairies in Grave, and I'm just like trying to thin my deck to make sure I get Christia. I'm not going to use these Heralds if I can avoid it, just because I want to make sure I have 4 Fairies when I draw Christia. I draw Solemn Judgment, which is pretty strong, so now I have 3 negates plus a Warrior Lady and a Grand Mole. Big issue is my life total. That's kind of the weakness here. I'm going to set Warrior Lady, set Solemn, and pass. Hopefully top deck Christia. I can just slam the Christia with Solemn backup. He attacks the set monster with the Catastrophe, and that's going to trade. Catastrophe doesn't activate when attacking face downs. The monster needs to be face up when attacked. DD Warrior Lady is going to banish the Ally of Justice and itself. Opponent's going to set a monster, pass. We draw Legacy, which is another draw step towards Christia. I just set it and pass. I could have Grand Moled his monster, but I'm still fearing that sweeper plus high value card in play. Now that he has 2 monsters in play, I'm comfortable committing my Grand Mole. I Legacy, once again, just trying to hit that Christia, but I just don't. And Call of the Haunted also makes me pretty comfortable summoning Grand Mole here. I summon the Grand Mole, and he lets it go through. I'm going to bounce his monster here. He lets it go through because he doesn't want to Torrential his Snowman Eater, which is a high-value card versus us. I'm going to set Call of the Haunted and pass. I'm hoping just to force him to have to end phase discard some stuff. We draw Compulsory. I'm going to go for the same Mole play, bounce his monster, set the compulsory, pass. He has another back row, sets it, passes. At this point, I'm just like stunned. I'm like, what does he have in his hand that's not attacking me? It's got to be like snowman eaters and stuff. And I finally, with 16 cards left in my deck, draw a Christia. So I can summon that. He does have Solemn Judgment, I believe. No, he doesn't Solemn this. Christia hits play. I summon the Mole. He goes for Torrential. I decide to Solemn this because Mole Christia is really good. And even if he does still have Mirror Force, we do have Call of the Haunted and Compulsory if we want to. And we still have like 2 functional negates in the Heralds of Orange, so we still have a couple more negates if this Christia issue doesn't happen. But I figured it's best to Solemn Torrential here because Torrential is the only thing that deals with both besides Mirror Force, and Mirror Force we can play through with Call of the Haunted basically. I'm going to attack for 28. He drops down to 45. I set my Brain Control so I don't have to discard the hand size. I pass the turn. He does have Mark of the Rose. He finally has a Plant and Grave. So he's going to take my Christia. I'm going to use Compulsory here to defend my Christia from that Mark of the Rose. He is going to activate the Transmigration Prophecy. Very happy that this did not get chained to my Call of the Haunted. He's going to target my Honest and his Sanguine. Shuffles those 2 cards back into the deck just to keep me off of using Christia. But if you go back to that Sanguine turn, he knows that I do have Herald of Orange in my hand. So I am going to just use Herald of Orange here to negate this Dark Arm Dragon. I pitch Christia because if he has Miracle Fusion, my only way of interacting with that right now, besides dying, is chain Call of the Haunted, target Christia. So I need to pitch my Christia here in order to survive through a single Miracle Fusion. With 6 cards in hand, there's a chance he just has a Miracle Fusion. So he passes a turn, we draw Mirror Force, I activate Alchemist, Chain Link 2, activate Call of the Haunted, target Christia to play around Bottomless Trap Hole. If there was a Bottomless Trap Hole set, he would not be able to activate it because Christia would be summoned Chain Link 2. And then the last thing in the chain would be Alchemist effects resolving. And the summon window would be gone, so he couldn't Bottomless there because Bottomless is a win effect. And yeah, this is 100 over lethal, and we are able to attack for 4,600. So yeah, pretty good stuff. Pretty solid game. Able to win a match after punting game 1. Like absolutely super punting game 1. The power of Grand Mole definitely shined in this match, and you can see from my opponent's hand, a very greedy deck list. Lots of the plant stuff stuck in his hand, some of the other like normal summon heavy stuff stuck in his hand, and Grand Mole just doing a great job against the cards that kind of dismantle this deck usually, which is Brain Control and Mark of the Rose. Compulsory also being very clutch at bouncing the Christia as well. This was just kind of a showcase on how to set up Grand Mole locks, how to keep your opponent super far behind from things, and then just Herald of Orange when they do end up going for a play, and then going for Christia to close things out. Yeah, pretty much textbook fairy match. All right, next game. Next game is up against Obed Bryan. I once again win the rock, paper, scissors like I deserve to. Let's be real. I honestly deserve to win every rock, paper, scissors. And my opening hand is pretty good. I've got Alchemist, I've got Herald, Live Herald, I've got Deep Prison, Mirror Force. I'm just going to summon Alchemist, activate, miss, set Deep Prison, pass. He's going to activate Foolish Burial. So a couple of my opponents starting off with Foolish Burial. He makes some interesting plays here. He goes for the activation of Malicious. He normal summons Deep Sea Diva, and he says no effect. So I'm like, either he has all his divas in hand. Let's take a look. Either he has all his divas in hand. He doesn't. Or he's playing around Herald of Orange Light, which is really, really unique. It's really interesting. But by playing around Herald of Orange Light here, like let's say you play around Herald of Orange, right? You have to make Colossal Fighter to play around Herald and Honest, right? Either that or you have to make Dark End, which Dark End here is pretty good. I can't lie. Dark End would have been really good, but that does play into Herald once again. It's still a 2 for 2, which isn't a bad exchange, but it's a 2 for 2, and you've lost like a significant number of cards, doing this. You've lost 2 cards, your normal summon, your turn, like you're giving me more activations on Alchemist. You haven't done anything to impact my back row or my field. If I draw another summon, all of a sudden you're staring down like potentially 3,000, 4,000 damage. So it's tough. You basically have to make Colossal Fighter here. It's the only thing that doesn't lose to Honest or Herald like incredibly. And guess what that loses to? Deep Prison. So this is kind of a really tough situation for the opponent to be in. That's how powerful Herald of Orange is. He just has to respect it. There's no way he can read it. He just has to like assume it's in my hand, and yeah, he can't really do anything but play through it. So he goes -1 into Colossal Fighter. He attacks. I go for Deep Prison. He goes Book of Moon. But I'm pretty happy with this exchange. He's down to 4 cards. I'm going to be up to 6. I can just Herald this Colossal Fighter if I really want to. I'm going to draw for turn. I find Honest, which is exceptional because now I have all the hand traps. I can just activate Alchemist. Miss again, of course. Set my Mirror Force and pass. He draws Heavy Storm. He plays it, -1 Heavy Storm, as a way to just make sure his Colossal Fighter can flip face up. But he's gone -1 twice now this game. I can afford to go basically -2 into this Colossal Fighter and still be up. So I'm going to Honest. He's going to take 13. I'm going to Herald. He's going to take, like 13 damage, or 1300. He's going to set a back row pass. We're going to draw Herald of Orange. So now I have Brain Herald as follow-up. Alchemist is finally going to hit a monster. I'm going to hit for 1800. And my opponent's taken, 3100 now, and just hasn't been able to really get anything going this game. One thing that's important to note is I haven't seen anything from my opponent's deck quite yet, but I do know what he's playing because he's activated Foolish Burial. This is just knowledge of the format. Diva Hero decks don't play Foolish Burial usually because it's just a low impact card. It's usually a -1 for them. It's usually just can send Plague or Malicious, neither of which are super high impact. But one deck that does play Foolish Burial that also plays Diva and Malicious is Zombies. So I know he's playing Diva Zombies based off the fact that he's playing Foolish Burial. So even though it's just one little thing, one tiny little thing that I've noticed that could technically be in a bunch of different decks, I know exactly how to side in this matchup already, and I know exactly what to do against him. He sets another back row. I rip Soul Release, which is just busted. I'm going to go for it to try and shut off potential Miracle Fusion, potential Dark Armed, that sort of stuff. And I'm also going to use it to banish Honest, so that if he ever does run over my Alchemist, I'm going to get my Honest back. He's going to be at 3100 because he's taken 18 this turn. I go for Soul Release, or I go for Alchemist first. Then I go for Soul Release. He Solemns my Soul Release, basically confirming his card in hand is Dark Armed Dragon. And now I'm just like, oh, I win for sure. He's going to summon Dark Armed. He doesn't have Solemn, and I have Brain. So the game is over. I'm just going to attack for 18. He's going to draw one more card, and we're going to go to game 2. Basically, I ripped Heavy Storm. I'm going to cast it. He would have been forced to Mirror Force my Dimensional Alchemist, which would have given me back Shining Angel, which would have just put him in a terrible position, basically. But yeah, either way. Moving into game 2, the way I side versus Zombies, going first, going second is a little bit different. But I actually think that Zombies, their back row is scarier a lot of the time than their creatures are. Because they can have things like Light Mirror, Phoenix Wing, Wind Blast. Those cards are really scary. Like, those are just like really, really difficult cards to deal with. And then on the other side of things, the way Zombies can gain an edge in this matchup is Revive King Hades. And the best way to deal with Revive King Hades, obviously, is Compulsory Evacuation Device. You don't really want it to hit the Banish Zone because they can bring it out with Return. You don't really want it to hit the graveyard because they can bring it out with Book of Life and Mizuki. So just putting it back in the extra deck is the best place you can have it. And then, of course, Royal Oppression is just fucking insane versus Zombies. So the way I sided in this matchup was I brought in some Thunder Kings. It's just good versus Goblin Zombies, good versus the regular stuff. I brought in some Breakers just to pop those back row, those key back row. I brought in the Dust Tornadoes, I believe. I brought in Double Compulsory, and I brought in Royal Oppression. So I sided in a ton of cards. The cards I usually side out in this matchup, I usually side out. Raico's bad. Mirror Force is bad in this matchup. Because I'm siding in the Royal Oppression, sometimes I side out Return and Call of the Haunted as well on my part. Usually Return first. Call of the Haunted on Christie is a good way to just like steal games. But yeah, that's pretty much that. And I side out one Alchemist. Sometimes I side out one Nova Summoner just because, like I said, the way you lose the game is Revive King Hades. And so if he's going Hades, your Recruiters are like your worst cards. What else was I side out? I side out Card Trooper in this matchup because you don't really want to be like milling a ton of cards and then swinging into their Pyramid Turtles and just giving them whatever they want, because that's what they want in the matchup. So I side out Card Trooper. I can't remember what else I sided out, but basically, yeah, I think it was like Return, Card Trooper, Mirror Force, probably Legacy, probably Raikou. Yeah, it was definitely Raikou. Definitely one Alchemist, maybe one Nova Summoner. I can't remember what else I sided out, but that's like the generic loadout. And then I brought in some number of Thunder King, some number of Breaker, Double Compulsory, Royal Oppression, some number of Dust Tornado possibly. Maybe I didn't side out the Nova Summoner because here it is in my hand. I'm trying to think what I sided out. Anyway, we open up with Herald of Orange and Gores, and it's going to be very difficult to ever lose versus Zombies as long as you have these cards, so just set Nova pass. He's going to go Regeki Break, -1 just to pop a Nova Summoner. Pretty happy with this. Just because if he goes into a Synchro here, like let's say he goes Dark End, right? He's not. He's going Colossal. But let's say he goes Dark End. He attacks. I take 26. I drop Gores. I get a Gores and a Gores token. He activates Dark End. I Herald of Orange him. It was really interesting seeing him set the Diva there. I didn't really fully understand that, but I guess he's never really trying to activate Diva. He's just trying to make Colossal Fighter in this matchup. I think that that's kind of sus, but what can you do? He's going to hit me for 29. I am going to drop Gores because fuck it, we ball. And I am going to draw into Call of the Haunted, which is pretty cool, pretty chill, pretty vibes. I have a lot of options here, but I don't really want to do anything super committal. I was thinking I could crash Angel and then go get DD Warrior Lady and then crash that, but that kind of loses to Mirror Force like really fucking hard. And it also loses to just any spot removal trap. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the Angel and I'm going to set Solemn and set Call of the Haunted. And then just try to go for that next turn with Solemn backup. Although in hindsight, it's pretty stupid because I'm going to have to use Solemn to pay life points, which is going to put me too low to crash, I believe. He sets the Goblin Zombie passes, doesn't even elect to attack over the Gores. I knew he wouldn't with 2 back row because he'd be scared of Deep Prison and Mirror Force, and those are pretty commonly played cards, so there's no real reason for him to attack over the Gores right now. I draw Bottomless, which is pretty good. I could do a couple of different things. I could summon the Herald, synchro with Angel. I could, yeah, I could do a couple of different things. That was like the one that was like the clearest in my mind because it'll guarantee put me to 4 Fairies if I go Bryonic and bounce the Colossal Fighter. But going Bryonic and bouncing the Colossal Fighter is a little risky. It's just a little risky because if he has like, I don't know, Solemn plus Brain Control, it's just a little risky. In hindsight, I probably should have just done it. I think it's the safest thing here, and it also threatens... it doesn't threaten lethal. Oh, it does threaten lethal because I've called the Haunted set. Yeah, so it threatens lethal. So if I go Bryonic, and then I pitch bounce Colossal, pitch bounce the set monster, and then I attack, call the Haunted, attack, it's game. So in hindsight, I should have just done that because I think it's a guarantee unless he has Gores or Trag. If he has Gores or Trag, then it's very committal. But I think that the chances of him having Gores or Trag are pretty low in the top 7 cards of his deck that I probably should have just gone for it. Especially because of the way he was committing to the board, like a set monster and a set back row, that sort of thing. Yeah, probably should have just done it. Anyway, I go for this play instead, which is like much more safe. It keeps the Herald in my hand in case he has like Gore's Trag. I go ahead, crash, banish his shit. I attack his set monster. It's Goblin Zombie. He's going to search. He's going to grab Zombie Master. I'm going to attack for 27. He's going to take 27. I'm going to call the Nova Summoner. This was a mistake. I shouldn't have called the Nova Summoner here. I am already representing lethal next turn. I don't need to call this Nova Summoner. I can save this to defend myself if I absolutely have to, if my Gores dies. So I should have saved the call here. I should not have activated it because it puts a face-up attack position monster that's a liability. I attack for 1400. He takes 14. I set Bottomless, pass the turn. He summons Zombie Master, priority activates, I chain Bottomless. He goes for return, and then I Solemn. And he has no more plays, so we win. Pretty much, because he already normaled. But I think on the last turn, I probably should have just gone for it into Gore's Trag, but I felt like this was safest. I don't know. Let me know in the comments below if you think I should have gone for it, or if you would have gone for it, or if you think it's better to like sort of wait it out and find the checkmate with Solemn plus Herald as well back up. I think finding the checkmate is generally how I play these types of situations, but it can let you get punished by like extreme combinations sometimes. Thankfully in this instance, he did not have an extreme combination, so that's that. Moving on to the finals versus Julin. I am very grateful to Julin. I did have to go to a dinner meeting in between this match and the last match, and Julin waited to play me, so thanks to Julin. Shout out for being the realist. Julin plays in a lot of these 8-mans, very strong duelist, always on some tight shit. I set my DD Warrior Lady, he goes Rhoda, he has Stratos, and I'm like, fuck, I'm going -1 to Stratos, and I need to figure out how I'm going -1 to Stratos, and I figured the best way to do it is just Herald it, but I don't, just don't Herald it. He attacks the Warrior Lady. I banish the Stratos. I'm like, alright. I'm down -1. That's tough. I draw Shining Angel, though, which is pretty good. So I'm going to just summon Nova. But he's got his Torrential, and I'm like, damn. That's a pretty good one. That's really the only commonly played summon stop besides Solemn for Nova Summoner. And now my board is really fragile. I've got to set Torrential Pass. He E-calls for Bubble Man. So now I know he's trying to play some OTK bullshit. He summons Prisma. He hits me for 17. I just have to take it. I draw Solemn. I brain control his shit. I summon Herald. Or no, I attack for 17. Then I summon Herald and Synchro into Goyo. Set my Solemn and pass. I'm like, what can he do? What can he do? And he does the one thing that gets under Solemn, which is a Gear Town effect activation, unfortunately for me. Cannot Solemn this, so I'm going to be forced to Torrential Tribute this fucking Yugioh and my Goyo Guardian. Huge card advantage loss for me. And then it turns out he has a Fusion Gate, which I'm basically forced to Solemn, because if he's able to make Absolute Zero, which I know he can because he searched Bubble Man, then I'm looking at an Absolute Zero I can't deal with, and a Solemn Judgment that just has gotten no use or no value the entire game. I Solemn the Fusion Gate, and then he has Call of the Haunted for Yugioh. So he was able to press through all my back row and my big monster and OTK me this turn, which was very, very tough for me. So going into game 2, I decided to side a little bit differently than I have been in the past few games. I did side out a D-Alk. Usually, sometimes I'll side out a D-Alk versus the aggressive decks. It just depends on which deck it is. If it's Blackwings, I kind of like the D-Alks, but against these types of like Diva Hero style decks, D-Alk is kind of weaker because of Alias specifically. I didn't know if he was playing Alias, but I just assumed. What was I saying? Oh yeah, I sided out Trap Dust Shoot because Trap Dust Shoot can't take Gear Town. It also cannot take Miracle Fusion. And those are really the only two cards I care about. Like his little monsters, whatever. We can just invalidate them with Christia and Thunder King, which is the game plan, of course. Thunder King being insane versus both Terraforming and E-Call here. I decided to side out Mirror Force, or not Mirror Force. I decided to side out some of my D-Prisons for Compulsory, simply because Yugioh Dragon just attacks through D-Prison, so Compulsory is a little bit better. It also helps me deal with the two cards I care about, which is Absolute Zero and Yugioh. So having two Compulsory is better there. And then I think I sided in the Cyber Dragons as a way to clear resolved Yugioh and just run over his little monsters. And then I also did side in that Royal Oppression. I can't remember everything I sided out, but I'm assuming it was some combination of some things. You guys will see. You guys will see what I sided in and out. I'm not really sure what it was. I think I sided out Heralds. Yeah, I sided out two of the Heralds because I hadn't seen Diva yet. And I was just like, the only thing in his deck that I can Herald is Stratos. And that's never really a good exchange. So I decided to just leave in one Herald as a recruiter target or a way to get Christie on the grave or a way to negate an Absolute Zero. And then side out two of them so I didn't draw too many of them. Opening hand is really solid. I have Nova plus Compulsory to defend the Nova, and then I have Christia, so I'm basically going to be forcing stuff as early as turn 2. He attacks the Nova with a Prisma. We get Shining Angel, and this is like pretty standard like Fairy setup. You attack with the Shining Angel here. Just lets us go through. I do this a couple more times. And then I grab DD Warrior Lady to banish his Prisma. It's pretty good for me that he did not use the Prisma to try and set up his grave. So we are going to banish. And then main phase 2, special summon Christia. He's got Solemn Judgment for it though, so can't chain Compulsory to that because it's spell speed 3. But it is going to cost him 4,000 life points, and I'm looking at my hand like, this hand deals 4,000 every day of the week. I've got Cyber Dragon plus Herald of Orange to make Ancient Sacred Wyvern. I've got DD Warrior Lady plus Neospatian. I've got Cyber Dragon plus Neospatian to rush damage. I've got Compulsory to stop my opponent from summoning monsters, so yeah, this hand is very easily going to deal the last 4,000. So Christia forcing the Solemn and dealing 4,000 is as good of a card as I could ask for. Terraforming, searches Gear Town. I don't even care about this at this point. He's going to summon his monsters. I'm just trying to think here which of these is better to have banished and which is better to have in his hand. And it turns out the best one to have in his hand is probably the Ancient Gear guy. And the one to have banished is Gilman, because he could resummon the Gilman, which is annoying if it's in his hand. And also just banishing the water makes it so Miracle Fusion is most likely going to be dead for the rest of the game. So he attacks with Gilman, I Compulsory the Yugioh, and then he banishes his Gilman, and I banish my DD Warrior Lady. I draw another DD Warrior Lady. I'm like, fuck it, we ball. Hit for 15. Now he's at 25. He's even closer to being just killed by literally anything. He goes Diva, realizes his Gilman is gone, and special summons another Diva in attack or in defense position. What he actually has to do here is crash his Diva into Warrior Lady, but it's a lose-lose situation for him because on my turn, if he doesn't do that, I can Synchro into Goyo, and if he does, I can just summon Grammel, run over, and attack directly for game. So either way, it's a win. And we're going to game 3. Game 3 was a little bit different. I think it was a little bit different. I don't remember exactly how I sided. I think I sided out Heavy Storm. I sided in Dust Tornado. Yeah, I sided out Heavy Storm for Dust Tornado because the first 2 games, I didn't see hardly any back row from him. He's got like 6 engines. They're all very card-intensive engines. Like Gear Town's at least 8 cards. Fusion Gate is at least 1 card. You know, that's like 9 cards out of your deck. And then the Hero engine, like with Prisma and Bubbleman and Divas and all that, that's at least another 10 cards out of your deck. And then you've got Staples, which is like Triple Miracle, Future Fusion, Heavy Storm, Space Typhoon of his own, Solemn Torrential Mirror Force, all that stuff. And that's got to be like another 20 cards, right? So I'm thinking he probably doesn't have that heavy of a trap lineup. And Heavy Storm is actually not that great if he lingers a Gear Town. If he lingers a Gear Town, I go Heavy Storm. He just gets his Gear Giltron in defense, and I can never get over that card. So I was thinking I'd rather have Dust Tornado than Heavy Storm. So that was one of the changes I made going second. And then I do believe I brought in one or both of Pulling the Rug to try and stop Diva as well as Stratos. I don't remember if I did or not, but based off this hand, I can't really tell. I do still have the compulsories in because they are good versus what his deck is trying to do. He's just going to activate Gold, search Skyscraper, and pass. We're going to draw Legacy of Yada, which is a really good draw. So here I'll show you in real time what I decided to do. I set the Legacy, and then I thought for a really long time, and then I set the compulsory as well. But I thought for a really long time first. And this thinking is really important. It was also lagging, to be fair. But this thinking is really important because he's going to think that one of these or both of these are not chainable. Oh, shit. My bad. I did not mean to show hands. A little bit of a spoiler there. He's going to Typhoon, target the Legacy. I'm going to chain it. Easy +1. We're going to draw Christia. And my game plan's sort of forming here. I do have Shining Angel here. He's going to go for his Gear Town shit. You know, Gear Town, set Gear Town, that sort of stuff. Go ahead and summon out the Gear Giltron, which is okay. I have compulsory to bounce the Gear Giltron, so I'm not too worried about this. He attacks, and he flips Lightmare, and I'm like, fuck, I sided out Heavy Storm. And at this point, I was just like, bruh, I don't know how many outs I have to this. My hand does not play well into it. I am like, maybe going to get fucked by this card. Maybe. Really hard. Best thing I can do is keep my life total high and just find some good stuff off the top. I do have Thunder Kings. I do have ways to sort of stabilize the board here. Card Trooper, I think I had sided out. So there was like a couple of cards that like would be really good here that I don't have, obviously. I compulsory the Gear Giltron. I'm going to lose my Shining Angel, though, which does suck. I'm treating it kind of as the Light Mirror traded with the Shining Angel. I'm going to draw for turn. I find Gores, and I just pass. Because I'm like, okay, what can you do? He sets the Gear Town, plays the Skyscraper, specials the Gear Dragon guy, and then flips Skyscraper and makes, I think, the biggest mistake of the match. He attacks with the Gear Giltron Dragon. Maybe it's not the biggest mistake of the match. Maybe he just wanted to force the damage. But what he should have done here was attack with the Stratos first, and then just pass priority. Because I'm not going to drop Gores on the Stratos attack. There's just no way. I'm just not going to drop it on the Stratos attack. And so he gets 1800 free damage, and he time walks me. So, yeah, I think he missed an opportunity at a time walk by attacking with Stratos here. Instead, he hits with the Gear Giltron. He forces the issue now. He's going to go Stratos attack the Gores to clear it. And he does have the out for the token, but I think the reason Stratos clears is because of Skyscraper, by the way. I think the best play definitely would have been attack with Stratos and time walk, but alas, here we are. I draw into compulsory, which is good. It's another way to out this resolved Gear Giltron. I am just going to switch, attack the Stratos. He's going to deprison. I'm going to set the Shining Angel, basically sacrificing it to keep my life total high, potentially just drawing Fairies and sacrificing all of them to get a chance to stick the Christia. Now, Christia won't add back under Light Mirror, but it'll still prevent special summons, and it'll still be able to be specialed from my hand if I have 4 Fairies in grave. So Christia under Light Mirror actually is still pretty fucking good. So he's going to go Rhoda, search for Armageddon Knight, and I'm just like, Prage, please summon Armageddon Knight and like send a Plague or something. And that's exactly what he does. He calls for Prisma, and I'm like, okay, so he's got Armageddon, Prisma. I can maybe somehow beat this. He goes Armageddon, send. I chain Torrential Tribute. I get my solid 3 for 2. He is going to be able to send his Plague, but he's forced to pass a turn. And I rip fucking Tragodia like a god. This card saves my ass here. Basically, I know he has Prisma and I know he has Plague. He can do one of two things. Summon Prisma, attack, proc my Trag, I drop it. On my turn, I can steal his Prisma and take over the game. His Skyscraper will act for me as well. Additionally, he can go summon Prisma, stack for Plague, Synchro, but that plays 2-for-1 into my compulsory evacuation device, and the Trag will eventually stabilize me even after all that. So he's going to go Prisma attack. I think this is the more conservative and the safer of the two plays, but it is going to play into Trag quicker. He's going to pass. We're going to draw Herald of Orange. We have a lot of potential here. We have a lot of different lines. I could steal this monster. I could Synchro with it with Herald of Orange. But no matter what I do, I can't get to 4 Fairies while keeping Christia in hand. So the best play, I think, is to steal his Elemental Hero Prisma, hit for 2,900, which is the maximum damage, and then given the configuration of his deck, given that he hasn't searched Alias, given that he has Plague already in Grave, given the nature of Gear Towns, Fusion Gate, Miracle Fusion, all of his like payoff cards are special summon cards, Future Fusion, Malicious even, potentially even Dark Arm Dragon. I don't really know what all he's running here. All of those cards are still shut off by Christia. So main phase 2, what I'm going to do is I'm going to sacrifice for Christia and just hope he doesn't have an out to it, pretty much. I'm going to say you have to out this, and I know your deck doesn't have outs to this in-engine besides Mirror Force once it's already resolved, and 1 D-Prison is gone, and that's probably one of his few outs to a resolved Christia here. You'll check his hand. He's got E-Call, he's got Bubble Man. Both cards are kind of bricked. He draws for turn. It is Miracle Fusion. None of these cards are active, so he's just forced to set Bubble Man and pass. We attack the Bubble Man, clearing it. He draws another card. It's Terraforming. Terraforming doesn't get you anywhere under Christia. And now I've got Bottomless to defend myself even further. I hit for 28, saying he needs to draw something this turn. He draws for turn. It's Terraforming again. He goes and concedes. So, yeah. Christia is still an insane card. This deck is still insane. It still plays some of the best power cards in the game. Like Trag Gores. Torrential is one of the best. I definitely could have played these games, not just against Julian, but in the first round as well, a little bit better, but I think Fairies is one of the most powerful decks. Hopefully, this 8-man shows you guys a little bit more about what the deck can play through, what the deck can compete against, and how it just creates a lot of checkmate situations with cards like Herald, cards like Grammel, cards like Christia, and how the late game is just like really, really tough to play against with a lot of decks. All right, guys. Great vid, Kappa. Smash like, subscribe. I'm lingering here. Is there anything else I want to tell you about? Probably. I'm trying to get the RBET IRL schedule ready for next year. That's what I've been kind of hustling to get set up. So as soon as I know dates for the RBET IRL schedule, they will be made available. That announcement will be coming very, very soon. I'm hoping by next weekend, but possibly more likely than not, it'll be by Christmas. I'll have the IRL RBET schedule for next year for you guys. So really exciting stuff for 2024. Edison is only growing. A lot of innovation. Saw some cool deck lists in this 8-man, and I can't wait to see what else people come up with in RBET Rulers, because last year was a blast. We had Frog Combo, we had Archlord Christia, the Christia Sworn deck debuted last year, RBET Rulers, and then we had Diva Hero Beat debut last RBET Rulers as well. Indikid getting second place with Diva Hero Beat, and then first place being Pro Storm with Fairies. So just really, really amazing top 8 showcase from the best players in the game last year. And this is like my Christmas, November 18th, right? See you guys there. Peace.